What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Hybrid Network and a brand new review looking at Netflix's newest original animated series from executive producer Adi Shankar, Castlevania. Now, just to warn all of you, this review will contain spoilers, so if you aren't finished with the season, you might want to click out now. Go ahead and go watch it really quick and then come back here and take a look, because honestly, it's not going to take you very long. Alright, with that out of the way, let's dive on in. Castlevania. The name is familiar to all of you, I'm sure, as it's probably one of Konami's biggest video game IPs. Starting off as a 2D platformer and eventually spreading into a multitude of genres, Castlevania is no stranger to innovation in terms of gameplay. So, what happens when you take the gameplay away and focus just on the plot? Well, surprisingly, it works pretty well. As it stands, the story for Castlevania is loosely based on Castlevania 3, which follows the story of Trevor Belmont as he embarks on a quest to save Transylvania from the scourge of Dracula. Season 1's story is fairly short, comprised of 4 episodes each clocking in at 20 minutes each, and unfortunately doesn't get into the main plot of the game, but it's a perfect build-up for establishing the main cast of the show for the second season, as the group moves into Dracula's castle. Trevor Belmont is showcased as a sarcastic, gruff, and slightly drunkard individual. His family excommunicated from the church for dabbling into the world of monsters and dark magic. The show sort of serves as a means of giving Trevor a reason to fight for a country that's essentially turned its back on him, as well as finding the means to essentially give a shit about the state of the world and actually care about the people trying to make it better. The supporting characters Sypha and Alucard don't really show up until near the end of the season, Sypha being saved by Trevor in episode 3 and Alucard having a fight with Trevor in the last minutes of episode 4, but it doesn't really matter once you realize that the season is mostly there to justify this group heading to Dracula's castle. Their interactions with Trevor really make up the brunt of their characterization, and I think that's good enough to set up for the future development further on in season 2. Antagonist-wise, well, there's not really much outside of the church. Dracula is set up in the first season to be the main antagonist of the whole series, the show painting him in a sympathetic light and showcasing the death of his wife Lisa at the hands of the church, burned at the stake for witchcraft, and setting the vampire down a path of hatred as he plagues Europe with his horde of demons and hellspawn. He doesn't really appear outside of the first episode, and for the most part the villain of this first season is the Church, whom lies and corrupts to the general populace against anyone that has a chance to defeat Dracula on account of it not really adhering to the word of God. It's a little weak in all honesty, and it kind of gets old seeing the Church stay so steadfast against anyone that could even remotely help against the curse of Dracula. I suppose it's the only way to really justify the fact that no one's even attempted to fight back, but I couldn't help but feel as if there had to have been a better and less tired approach, though it's kind of forgiven somewhat in this really brutal and horror-centric scene in the opening of episode 4, not to mention that the length of the series kind of keeps it from being a huge bother. Animation-wise, the series seems pretty decent in that regard, with the project having been tackled by Frederator Studios and Powerhouse Animation. Visually, fights play out pretty fantastically, with dynamic shots and fluid movements making it the highlight of the series so far, and it only bodes well for the series moving forward. Even when characters are idly standing around and chatting, the art direction is certainly appealing. I mean, there's nothing extraordinary in terms of settings, but it works for introducing the audience to the time period, and it's only to get more interesting as the main cast moves into the interior of Dracula's castle. The only complaint that I really have is that some character models look a bit off at times, some people going cross-eyed from time to time, and that honestly the creature designs aren't really that interesting, but this is all stuff that can be fixed in the next season as the plot thickens a bit. Overall, Castlevania is a pretty enjoyable introduction to what surely be a pretty great show, with a lot of room to grow and develop even further as we get closer and closer to defeating Dracula and his curse. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and don't forget to subscribe to the Hybrid Network to stay up to date on all of our videos as they come out. My name is Luke, and I'll catch you all next time.